is when Neo is at work. Basically, his boss says, "You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson. You believe you are special, that the rules do not apply to you. Obviously, you are mistaken. The time has come to make a choice, Mr. Anderson. Either you choose to be at your desk on time from this day forth, or you choose to find yourself another job." Scene cuts to Neo sitting at his desk doing his job. So, repeat. You have a problem with authority, Mr. Anderson. Well, duh, because the question is, what is the Matrix? The Matrix is control. Of course, our hero would have a problem with control. You believe you are special. All the clues are being put in front of us. You believe you are special. So, just like the guy saying, you're my savior, my own personal Jesus Christ. You have another character saying, you believe you're special. You have a problem with authority. This is all part of character building, which is interesting because we all know, Keanu Reeves never wins all the awards for Best Actor and things like that. Whoever would have played this role would have had to read the same script, but it's just kind of funny that in a huge movie where Keanu Reeves plays the star character, that so much character development is just funny is directed right at him. Other people are developing the character for him, which I think is kind of funny. Then, of course, the scene unfolds where we talked about in the hero's journey, where basically Morpheus calls. He's trying to get out of the building, and it's just important to note that when he climbs out on the window ledge, he's trying to escape. He's trying to get on the scaffolding. He says, "I can't do this." He gives up and he says, "I can't do this." So he hasn't yet, because the boss is saying, "You need to make a choice." In that moment, that was the choice. The choice wasn't about whether he was supposed to be, working or looking for another job. It's foreshadowing that a major choice is coming, and early on in the movie, the choice that he makes is basically a rejection of the call, which we talked about as part of the development of the hero's journey. So the next scene is the detainment scene. This is where Neo is caught by the agents. Basically at this point, it's a little bit more. There's a lot of things going on, but it's a little bit more character development to show that Neo doesn't like authority, which is pointing directly to the fact that the Matrix is about control. He says, "You can't scare me with this Gestapo crap," and overall, he has a resentment against authority and control. Now, eventually, we get to the scene where he meets with Morpheus. And, of course, this is a big scene. Morpheus asks, "Do you believe in fate, Neo?" And Neo says, "No." Morpheus says, "Why not?" Neo says, "Because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life." So, it's, again, right there, I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life. It's kind of hidden in this idea of, like, choice and things like that. But, again, the word control, because he's saying, I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life. And the reason that that's a problem in the Matrix is because the computers and the robots are in control of his life. And Morpheus says, "I know exactly what you mean." So it's kind of hidden in this veiled idea of choice and fate, but it's still it's on the surface. What it is it's a statement of, I don't like not being in control of my own life. I want to be free, essentially. And so, again, it's pointing to the fact that the movie, The Matrix, is a metaphor for control, the controlled state that the writers, are comparing to our world. So Morpheus is telling him. So finally, he asks, "What is the Matrix?" And Morpheus says, starting to tell him about the Matrix, he says, "It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth." And Neo says, "What truth?" Morpheus says, "That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, into a prison you cannot smell, taste, or touch, a prison for your mind." Again, in the movie, it's the digital Matrix. Outside the movie, it's the metaphor of living a life in a controlled society created for you. Now, moving forward, eventually, of course, Neo takes the pill. He chooses the red pill, and they hook him up to the machine. And this is basically how they begin the process of getting someone out of the Matrix and unplugging them. I guess the first thing they have to do is Well, it's technical. They have to find their real body out there in the fields of bodies. But one interesting thing that happens in the scene, so Neo takes the pill, he's sitting in the chair, and he looks at a mirror. And he's looking at a broken mirror. So he's seen a broken view of himself. And then the mirror magically right in front of him kind of melds back together and fixes itself. So this is important because now we're starting to insert some other religious beliefs in the movie. So the idea of the mirror is a symbol in a lot of Indian religions, and it denotes perceiving experience as it is without obscuration. It is a symbol of clarity. So in a lot of religions like Buddhism, the mirror it's a representative symbol of understanding yourself without anything fake, discovering who you are without any other false perceptions. It's clarity, and of course that's what's going on here. The whole ride, basically, that Neo's taken is he has to figure out who he is outside of the Matrix before he can even begin to figure out, if he's the one. And he hasn't even been born into that world yet. Okay, so the symbolism there, the insertion of the mirror, and then it's neat because then he touches the mirror. All right, so the mirror becomes one. He gets a clearer vision. So it's beginning. He takes the red pill, and it's kind of like a symbol. It's about to begin. You're about to see things clearer. He touches the mirror, and then what happens is, if you remember the movie, it starts like taking over his fingers and his hand and his arm, and it's reaching up, and like all the kind of like the liquid metal or whatever, almost like the scene, for the dude from Terminator 2, it's taken over him. But it's kind of symbolic of is taking over here. So that's kind of neat. That's what's going on there. And that's when Morpheus looks at him and says, "Have you ever had a dream, Neo, you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference from the dream world and the real world?" And that gets back into so much of the Descartes, Cartesian philosophy. If you have, how can you assume that you know anything, and how do you not know that what you're seeing isn't a dream, or even at worst that there's an evil genius that is controlling everything you see, smell, taste, and touch. So now the wake-up scene. So Neo wakes up in the pod. He pulls all the plugs out of him. So he drops into the water, and he's raised from darkness into the light of the ship. So when he kind of falls down the tube, ends up in the water down below, which is really just like a waste sewage area. And then the Nebuchadnezzar ship flies over. It opens up, and like a hand comes, like a mechanical arm comes down, grabs Neo, and raises him up in the ship. And when he's raised up into the ship, you see the contrast. You see the door open, and you see the light, and you see him being taken from darkness into the light. Well, there's another image of the allegory of the cave being taken from darkness into light. And the light, basically, then he's going to learn what the truth is once he's aboard the ship. So once he enters the light, it's where truth gets revealed. So a few things that end up happening here. So, of course, this is where it was also worth mentioning before when we were talking about the allegory of the cave. You remember when Neo the first thing they do with Neo, they get him on the ship, and his muscles don't work, and they have all the pins and needles in them. And they said, your muscles have atrophied. Then he says, why do my eyes hurt? And they say, because you've never used them. It's beginning to again represent the allegory of the cave, where they're saying that if they pulled somebody out of the cave, would it not be painful? Would it not hurt? Would not the light and the brightness of true light hurt their eyes and things like that? So that's what's going on in that scene to represent that. This is when we find out that the name of the ship is Nebuchadnezzar, and we even see a plaque that's on the wall inside the ship. It says Mark III, number 11, Nebuchadnezzar, made in the USA, near 2069. So first of all, Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible is a Babylonian king. And of the many things he did, but the kind of the one thing that ties in with the Matrix is Nebuchadnezzar searched for the meaning of his dreams. And the prophet Daniel tells him his dream stands for the rise and fall of powers. So basically, the character Morpheus in Greek mythology is the god of sleep. He is also he was in search for the meaning of his dreams. The oracle said that he would find the one, and it basically prophesied that then the one would basically be the end of the Matrix. So the prophet Daniel tells Nebuchadnezzar his dream stands for the rise and fall of power, just like the rise and fall of the machines when the Matrix world collapses. And on that plaque it says Mark 3, number 11. So in Mark 3:11 reads, "Whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and shouted, 'You are the Son of God,'" which is also then kind of a symbol to show that again that Morpheus is on this mission to find the one, and of course the Neo would be the Messiah-like figure. So at this point, Morpheus updates Neo on what happened with artificial intelligence and history. At the end of this story, he says he begins the end of his story saying, "What is the Matrix?" And he looks at Neo and says, "Control." I mean, just bluntly, what is the Matrix? Control. And that's, again, they're very clear throughout the movie, putting the words Matrix and control and showing symbols of control to just be very clear that it is a metaphor in our world for control. And this is when Neo begins to say, "No, I don't believe it. It's not possible." This is him rejecting the truth, just like when in the allegory of the cave, when the character would run back in to try to free the other people and tell them that they're living a false life, that the reality is just outside the cave, that they would mock him and laugh at him and reject the truth. So basically, at this moment, Neo is rejecting the truth, and he starts yelling, "Stop, let me out, I want out." And that's when he wakes up, and he just starts yelling at everybody, "Stay away from me, I don't believe it, I don't believe it, I don't believe it." He just keeps saying, "I don't believe it," and then he throws up. So there is that moment of, just like in the story of the allegory of the cave, saying what would happen. You drag this person out and basically reveal to them that everything that they've ever known was not real. So moving along, Neo has this little freak out moment. In the next scene, he wakes up. He's still on the Nebuchadnezzar, and he says to Morpheus, "I can't go back, can I?" And then Morpheus says, of course, "No, but if you could, would you really want to?" So just like in the allegory of the cave, once that person came to realize and accept the truth, would they really want to go back into the cave? This is when Morpheus shares with Neo the prophecy told to him by the oracle that basically Morpheus would find the one. It began with the one who was born into the Matrix, freed the first 23 individuals. He was able to manipulate the Matrix, and then one day he would return and help bring down the Matrix, and that Morpheus would be the one that finds the one. He basically says that that as long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free. So at this point, he tells him to get rest because he's going to begin his training. Again, we're still following the journey, the hero's journey. He meets Tank, who's getting him ready for his testing. Tank mentions Zion, which is basically the last place where humans are free in the world. In the Bible, Zion, in the book of Revelation, Zion is the kingdom of God where the righteous will be saved after the destruction of Earth. So in the movie, of course, after the Earth is destroyed and the machines take over, Zion is where those that were saved still live. So he does his training, he starts learning how to fight and everything like that, and they eventually get to the jump program, and the message here is free your mind. And of course, it's a moment where so he's trying to free his mind, accept that he's one, but he can't do that yet. He's not ready. That's why he fails the jump program. because he's still got a long way to go. He hasn't